You're going to be shown 3 separate podcasts. Your job is to determine which of these are AI generated. To make it not obvious, I've changed the visual portion to generic stock video footage. Can you tell the difference?
Welcome to Gaymer Life, the podcast where pixels meet pride and button mashing meets fabulousness. I'm Joe, your overly dramatic healer main. And I'm Alex, your trash-talking DPS who still doesn't understand tanking. But hey, that's the team effort, right? Today's episode is all about what it's like being a gay man in the gaming world. From awkward voice chats to why our Animal Crossing islands are better than yours. Hint, it's the Flamingo Garden and everybody knows it. Let's start with the classic voice chats. The moment you say, hey, I'm going mid, and suddenly everyone's like, switches to deep mock bro voice. Oh, is that a guy? Or wait, is that a gay guy? And then you're like, yeah, Brad, it's me, the mystical creature known as a gay gamer. I'm here to carry you in Overwatch because clearly you need it. Don't even get me started on the people who suddenly stop swearing when they hear me talk. Like, dude, I've heard worse insults from RuPaul's Drag Race critiques. Although, to be fair, I do enjoy when I freak out the 14-year-olds who thought they were edgy, like, call me the final boss of inclusivity. Okay, Joe, quick question. If you had to pick one, are you team RPG drama or team first-person shooter carnage? RPG all the way. If I can't customize my character's hair and their entire tragic backstory, what's the point? Fair. I lean more towards shooters because nothing says stress relief like obliterating strangers in Fortnite. Plus, I get to taunt straight dudes who think pink camo skins are girly. Like, babe, it's fashion and strategy. Let's be real, gamers elevate every game we touch. Who else would spend hours perfecting their Stardew Valley farm just for aesthetics? Or redecorate a Skyrim house when you're supposed to be saving the world? Exactly, world-ending dragons can wait. This alchemy table is clashing with my vibe. Let's talk about gay representation in games. We've come a long way from vague side characters hinting at queerness. Remember the best friend trope who was always too busy to date? Or the blatantly gay-coded villains? Why did every male antagonist have a British accent, dramatic hand gestures, and a love for purple capes? Purple capes are fabulous, but queerness shouldn't be villainized. Thankfully, games like The Last of Us Part 2 give us Ellie's full, unapologetic story. And don't forget Dragon Age and Mass Effect. Those games practically invented the gay fantasy of flirting with a squad mate. But why do I have to jump through more hoops to woo a same-sex character? Straight players get a free pass, flirt once, and boom, romance. Right? Why does my romance option feel like a side quest? Give me equality in my digital dating life, please. Indie games are leading the charge on diverse representation. Have you played Dream Daddy? Obviously, it's like gay gaming heaven hot dads, quirky dialogue, and a mini-game where you make burgers. And then there's Celeste, which isn't explicitly about queerness, but its story of self-discovery resonates deeply with LGBTQ+ players. Subtle representation can be powerful. When are we getting the ultimate queer RPG? I want a game where I can roleplay as a badass gay wizard. It's about normalization, not just inclusion. I want games where queerness is a normal, vibrant part of the world. Here's hoping the future of gaming is as colorful as our Animal Crossing islands. Alright, that's all for today's episode. If you've ever defended a payload while debating queer-coded villains, or if your squad has as much drama as a season of Drag Race, this podcast is for you. Follow us on socials, tell us your favorite gamer moments, and remember, whether you're slaying dragons or just slaying, you're doing amazing, sweetie. Game on, gamers!
Welcome to the podcast where we explore the strange, the spooky, and the unexplained. I'm Sam, your ghost-friendly skeptic.
And I'm Riley, your slightly too excited believer who may or may not own a haunted doll. Together, we're diving into the fascinating world of paranormal investigation.
Today's episode is all about ghost hunting. Is it scientific exploration or just spooky entertainment? We'll look at the history, the tools, and the claims and see if we can separate fact from fiction.
And maybe, just maybe, convince Sam to spend a night in a haunted house with me. What could possibly go wrong?
Let's start with a bit of history. Paranormal investigation, as we know it, began in the 19th century with the rise of spiritualism. People were fascinated by seances, mediums, and the idea of communicating with the dead.
Yes, the Fox sisters in upstate New York were basically the OG ghost hunters. They claimed they could hear spirits knocking and used that to answer questions. Spoiler alert, they later admitted it was fake, but the movement had already taken off.
And that trend evolved. By the 20th century, we had organizations like the Society for Psychical Research which tried to take a scientific approach to studying hauntings, ESP, and more. But let's be honest, science wasn't exactly robust back then.
Still, it paved the way for modern ghost hunting shows and tech, which brings us to the gadgets.
Okay, Riley, walk us through the toolkit of a paranormal investigator.
Gladly. First up, the EMF detector. Supposedly, spirits create electromagnetic fields. These gadgets measure spikes in EMF, which some people believe indicate a ghost's presence.
But couldn't those spikes also come from, I don't know, faulty wiring or a nearby microwave?
Sure, if you want to ruin my fun. Then there are spirit boxes, basically modified radios that sweep through frequencies. Ghost hunters ask questions and interpret the static as answers from the other side.
Right, because what says serious science like interpreting random noise?
Hey, don't knock it until you try it. There are also thermal cameras, motion sensors, and even apps that claim to detect ghosts. Some of it feels legit, but a lot of it is just gadgets for the spooky inclined.
And let's not forget the feeling cold spots trick. Newsflash, drafts exist, people. So here's the big question. Is there any actual evidence for ghosts?
It depends on who you ask. Paranormal shows love to feature orbs in photos, mysterious sounds, and disembodied voices. But skeptics argue these are just dust, lighting tricks, or the power of suggestion.
Let's talk about pareidolia. That's when our brains see patterns like faces in clouds or figures in static. A lot of ghost sightings might just be our minds trying to make sense of randomness.
True, but some cases are harder to dismiss. Take the Enfield poltergeist in the UK. Multiple witnesses, strange sounds and objects moving on their own. Sure, skeptics say it was a hoax, but believers argue it's one of the best documented hauntings ever.
And then there are near-death experiences, EVPs, and the countless personal stories. While they're fascinating, they don't hold up under scientific scrutiny. That doesn't mean people are lying. It just means we might not fully understand what's happening.
Here's a thought. Why are we so obsessed with the paranormal? Why do we want ghosts to exist?
Great question. For some, it's about finding meaning in death. Proof that there's more to existence than what we see. For others, it's the thrill of mystery and the unknown.
And for me, it's the hope that my haunted doll will someday blink at me. Just kidding, mostly.
On that terrifying note, I'd argue that belief in ghosts also taps into our shared love of storytelling. Every culture has ghost stories. They connect us to our past and to each other.
Plus, let's be real. It's fun to be scared. Whether you believe or not, the paranormal is a great way to get your heart racing and your imagination going.
Welcome to where we delve into the pressing issues shaping our world. I'm Jamie, your host, and today we're exploring the 2024 U.S. presidential election, a historic and contentious event that continues to captivate and divide the nation. On November 5th, 2024, millions of Americans cast their votes in what has been described as one of the most polarized elections in recent history. This episode will examine the campaigns, controversies, and what this election means for the future of American democracy. Let's start by looking at the candidates. The election saw a rematch between former President Donald Trump, representing the Republican Party, and Vice President Kamala Harris, running as the Democratic nominee. Harris, the first woman and person of color to serve as vice president, made history again by becoming her party's presidential candidate. Trump's campaign leaned heavily on his America Reclaimed slogan, focusing on immigration, energy independence, and a return to what he described as traditional values. Meanwhile, Harris's campaign centered on building forward together, emphasizing healthcare reform, climate action, and preserving democracy in the face of rising extremism. This election season was marked by relentless campaigning, with issues like inflation, border security, climate change, and healthcare taking center stage. Both sides accused the other of failing to address the needs of ordinary Americans. Social media played an even bigger role this time, with viral moments, misinformation, and micro-targeted ads shaping public opinion. Younger voters in particular were a focal point for both campaigns, as Gen Z and millennials represented a significant portion of the electorate. Of course, no discussion of the 2024 election is complete without addressing the controversies. From challenges to mail-in voting procedures to questions about the role of AI in campaign strategy, This election faced scrutiny from multiple angles. Trump's rhetoric about election integrity remained a key theme, as he once again raised concerns about fraud, claims widely refuted by experts and election officials. Meanwhile, Democrats pointed to gerrymandering and voter suppression in key states as significant obstacles. Another issue that dominated headlines was the influence of foreign interference. Reports surfaced of cyber activity targeting campaign infrastructure, though intelligence agencies have not confirmed any direct impact on the election outcome. This has reignited debates about cybersecurity and the need for reform. Segment 3, Public Reaction and Implications. The reactions to the election have been as divided as the campaigns themselves. Protests erupted in several cities, with both sides claiming their voices were not being heard. At the same time, voter turnout reached historic highs, reflecting the deep engagement and deep divisions within the electorate. Internationally, the election has drawn significant attention. Allies and adversaries alike are watching closely to gauge how the outcome will shape America's foreign policy and global leadership. From the war in Ukraine to relations with China, the stakes could not be higher. For the public, the question remains, how do we move forward from here? The polarization of this election underscores deeper issues: economic inequality, racial and social divides, and distrust in institutions. Addressing these challenges will be critical, no matter who holds office. Segment 4, A Look Ahead. As we process the results of this election, it's important to reflect on what this means for the future of American democracy. Will the nation find ways to heal its divisions, or will this election further entrench existing fault lines? One thing is clear: the stakes are higher than ever, and the decisions made in the next 4 years will shape the course of the nation and the world for generations to come. It's up to all of us to stay engaged, stay informed, and hold our leaders accountable. Thank you for joining me on the 2024 election as a moment of reckoning for America, one that challenges us to consider the values we hold and the future we envision. Until next time, I'm Jamie. Be informed, be thoughtful, and as always, keep asking questions.
So, what do you think? Which is the AI generated and which is not? Make your guesses down in the comments.